Hello and welcome back to the Author Roundup, a special segment of the Book Connection Show where we meet up and coming indie authors and talk to them about the recently released books. Welcome back again. This is Ray Walters. If you've ever promised yourself this time will be different, only to find yourself looping back into the same habits, the same reactions, or the same stuck spot, today's book is built for the exact moment. This read frames change as something you can practice with clarity, identify what's really going on, notice the circumstances that keep pulling you back, get honest about the emotions driving the reaction, and then put words to your current default in a way that's clear enough to challenge. From there, the book introduces a simple pivot, a personal 180, a directive you repeat and live out until new patterns start to feel normal, not forced. The goal isn't hype or wishful thinking. It's a grounded step-by-step approach rooted in how the brain forms connections through repetition and action. Our guest today is a psychotherapist, business consultant, and longtime associate professor with a background in researching human behavior and decision-making. And she's also the creator and host of a podcast focused on insight and change. Let's jump in and talk about what it really takes to interrupt the loop and build something that lasts. Please welcome to the show, Allyson Maida. Hi, Allyson. Welcome to the Author Roundup.
Hi, Ray. Thanks for having me join you. This is great.
Congratulations in getting this book published.
Thanks. It's a long time in coming. I'm thrilled to finally get it out there.
All right. How has it been since you got this book out?
It's been exciting. You know, you publish a book and you're not really sure what is in front of you after that, especially if it's been a long time project. So it was a little bit of the unknown, which I have a tendency to find exciting.
Mm-hmm.
It's been launch parties and signings and the podcasts, and we're working on a book tour, which is pretty exciting through parts of the country, through the US. So it's been fun, exciting, a lot of learning. And of course, my brain is already spinning the next book. Like, I'm ready to roll. So,
All right. Well, this book is quite easy to remember. 180.
that is the plan. The plan. It should all be easy.
Right. Even the title should be easy. And it all already gives us a glimpse of what this book is about. It's something that we can easily follow because it's easy to remember the title.
Great.
Now, okay, I'm going to ask you this question because this will help our viewers and listeners quickly recognize themselves in the problem you are trying to solve. So, my first question to you is this. When people pick up this book, what stuck loop are they usually living in personally or professionally?
It's such a good question because this is exactly and organically the place that we go to, but it's also the place that we do become stuck, which is why the word stuck loop, that's so good. So what happens is we tend to go to the most obvious variables. That's where we go because that's what we know best. So the premise of a lot of brain science is that your brain, when you're thinking or feeling, it goes to the things that are most comfortable. People tend to call it their comfort zone.
Yeah.
So you get stuck in the same place, even if you think you're coming from a different angle. The truth is you're pretty much in the same place that you were before, hence the loop.
Okay. The title says counterintuitive. So what's the most common change strategy that feels right but keeps people circling back? And I must say that at some point in my life, I too am guilty of this.
I think we're all guilty of that. So welcome to the party. It's a human thing. I have
Yeah.
a feeling, it's a mammal thing probably, but first of all, it's counterintuitive because we do go back to the thing that is most comfortable for us. It's just simply the truth. Okay, so it's counterintuitive to do what you would not do, or start to try to think about something that makes no sense to you, because if you thought it made sense, you'd be thinking it already, if you follow that.
Yeah.
So so it has to be counterintuitive. It has to be 180 degrees, or as I explained in the book, it has to be as far away from what you ordinarily think, do, or believe as possible. because otherwise you're staying in the same vat of information and process. So that's why that is what it's called.
All right. So the first two questions I ask you already brought me to a level of awareness. And that's a good thing. You also outline a five-step method. Can you recall that piece? You outline a five-step method.
Yes.
What made you insist on a sequence instead of a list of sort of like tips? Because that's what I often read about whenever I read books within the same category as yours.
Right. Well, there's a tendency to move very fast now, say in comparison to our faraway past. We
Mm,
don't really take time to process things. And so we like tips. Give me the hack. Give me the tip, right? It's, people praying, Lord, give me patience. I want it now. Like whatever it is. So with this, it's if you truly want to create an adaptation, you have to go through the steps. You
yeah.
have to. Like babies, when they start eating, they're not even using their hands for the most part. Maybe they're helping to hold a bottle or whatever it is. Then they go, and we have to teach them how to hold whatever the utensil is, whatever it is in whatever country, it doesn't matter. We have to physically teach them how to do that because they have to adapt from their place of origin. It's the same thing with thinking. We have to go through steps in order to build the next steps in order
Mm.
to get through the doorway, so to speak. So that's why I felt it was more responsible to be honest and say, let me give you a book that is easy to read. It's an 11th grade reading level. It can even go, you can go lower than that reading level, but it's easy, but it's going to make you think because you have to go through steps in order to make this work. You can't just do one thing and it's over. It won't work.
All right. Speaking of steps, we're still within that five steps that I mentioned. I don't want to go ahead and spoil the people that are listening, just enough for them to pique their interests. Obviously, step one is identifying the issue. Okay,
Right.
so what does it look like when someone thinks they know the issue, but they're actually naming a symptom? Again, I'm guilty of this, all right? So, yeah,
Okay, so again, you're part of the grand majority, right?
yeah,
This is just how we think. We just go to what we understand. You can't access a resource if you've never had it, right? So that's a part of what we're really talking about. So what it looks like is this. People will say to me, whether it's in consulting or it's a student or it's a patient, it's anything. Could be a friend, a relative. They'll say, "Yeah, but I feel like this." And this is a big key to the beginning of this process. We've been raised in societies that tell us that everything stems from emotion. And this becomes a very chicken and egg space. It does.
okay,
So, yes, our emotions definitely prompt us to do certain things. But that emotion chemically comes from something. It's not from the nothingness. It's absolutely driven by something physically in your head. So, in
okay,
order for emotion to occur, you have to have some kind of motion taking place. Does that make sense?
yeah,
Okay, so if
yeah,
your brain's not doing something specific, it's not going to render perhaps a certain type of response. All right. So when you have somebody in the beginning saying things like, you know what, I just feel tired all of the time. I actually had this conversation less than an hour ago. And the
okay,
person said, all the time, I have no energy. And when we started to tear back what it was that took her energy away, suddenly we realized that it wasn't the energy that is the problem. It's messaging from her childhood that made things so difficult that it's so strenuous that it's exhausting. So you have to find that's the digging part in the beginning. It's I feel like this. Well, why do I feel that way? Most people are not born fully exhausted.
yeah,
Reaction to something. So to your point, it's a symptom. So symptoms tell us so much, and those symptoms are very, very important. But those symptoms aren't necessarily driving our behavior or our belief systems or our experiences. It's something bigger than that. So you have to like symptoms talk to you. Now the
yeah.
question, why would I have that symptom? And maybe it's something you've never thought about before. ever.
Right. And okay, yeah, it makes sense. If you have fever, you have an infection, and you have to determine what's causing the fever.
And you'll stop and ask yourself, well, where did that infection come from? Because
Yeah,
the infection itself is also a symptom of something.
gotcha. Makes sense.
Right?
Okay. When you talk about identifying circumstances, what kinds of triggers surprise people the most? Events, environments, relationships, or is it self-talk?
It's all of it, and it always depends upon the person. The reason why I think this book is so exciting is because it talks to masses and it talks to one individual person at a time. So for one person, it may be an environment. I often talk about you can be walking through an aisle in a large box pharmacy, and
Mm,
all of a sudden you have tears streaming down your face and you don't know why. And as you move through, you suddenly remember that you had been assaulted at some point, for instance.
yeah.
Okay. And now you don't know why you're thinking this because you haven't thought it for 30 years. Was it the shampoo bottle? Was it the color? Was it the texture of the floor? Was it a graphic? Is it the lighting? Is it a scent? What is it? You're in an aisle by yourself, just surrounded by products and a building. So what is it? So there's no way to say there's one place that's most surprising. It's more like it's surprising very often when you're triggered and you're not really thinking about that concept or that issue. That's really the true answer.
Right. It could be a past experience that's so it was so traumatizing to you that could have happened when you were still a kid, when you're still a child.
To be fair, everything is not from childhood. It could be something that happened 3 days ago or
Yeah,
this
something you
morning.
pick up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because everything that you experience, whether it's your experience or it's secondary because you heard it from someplace else, it's now in your head. Like
Mm,
your head at the end of the day doesn't have a recycle bin like a computer or a telephone.
right.
It's okay, that's great. Let's throw that out. That's not what it is.
True.
It's all stored. And we don't really recall a lot of what's stored until one day that trigger that you're bringing up occurs. And all of a sudden you're thinking about things you've never really thought about ever, or you haven't thought about for a long time, or you don't give it time because you thought it was of no circumstance.
Right. You emphasize emotions as part of the mechanism. How do you help readers treat emotions as information without letting emotions become the steering wheel?
It's really about the business of life. When we talk about business, all of a sudden you become analytic. It becomes linear. It's black and white.
Okay.
When you when we give a lot of attention to our emotions, which is fine, I'm not saying not do that, you're now moving a lot of that linear thinking aside. You
Hmm.
can lose your balance when you do that.
Yeah.
So I can work with somebody and they're so bogged down in the muck and mire of their emotion that they can't even see what really happened. They
Hmm.
can't even see their goals. Like I can't tell you how upsetting it sometimes it's visceral for me. I'll speak with somebody or a group of people and we'll talk about if it's interactive, obviously, emotions.
Hmm.
And then tell me things. And when you try to move the conversation to let's see what's really happening, I've seen people, their eyes glaze over. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to say. It's because they've been drowning in their emotion for so long that they don't allow the what I call the business of life to become a portion of the discussion.
Yeah, you're right. There really are times when you're so drowned in your emotion, you forget to see the logical side of it.
The concept of being emotionally hijacked. So let's pretend we're in a plane and somebody
Yeah.
hijacks the plane. Or you're on a boat, somebody hijacks the boat, or somebody carjacks you, right? Or whatever it is. The question first is, how do I manage my emotions? This is not imaginable. I'm supposed to get on point A, end up at point B. It's
Mm,
supposed to be fine. I hate that I had to bring my luggage. Like, okay, that's where we're supposed to be. So our first reaction will absolutely be emotional, and
mm,
that's fine. But if you stay there, you'll never be able to figure out how to get that plane to go in the right direction. What mechanisms exist? Do you have a phone that works in that plane at that time? How do you make contact? None of that's emotional. That's all linear thinking. So in order to not be emotionally hijacked, you'll be in your emotions. It'll be fine. It's good to know yourself emotionally. Those
Yeah,
emotions are critical. But if you get swept away, you'll drown. You won't get to where you want to go. I'm not saying you're over, but you won't be able to go to where you're trying to go because you've been hijacked.
true. And uh, different folks, different strokes. We process emotions differently. But I believe personally that it may be difficult for some. It may be easy for some, but to me, it doesn't really matter. The point is identifying that you're drowning in your emotions, and if you do something about it, so you can start to think in a linear manner and manage your emotions, that's already a win. And this book is this book's going to teach you how to do that.
Right. But it's a full circle. So if you are having trouble emotionally and you can make way for the business of your life, you will end up feeling better because you took care of business as
Mm.
well as your emotions. So it's really a matter of bringing balance. It's not heavily weighted on one or the other. And it depends, different strokes for different folks. Absolutely.
True. You introduce the idea that action creates reaction. And I do agree with that. What's an example of a small action that can start a big shift for, someone who feels overwhelmed?
Okay, so that's where the 180 comes in. Now the truth is that action creating a reaction is really a neurological concept.
Mm,
And I speak about this in the beginning of the book, I think. It was explained to me by a research scientist, a neurosurgeon, who was brilliant. And I talk about his brilliance a little bit in the book. He took this concept that I had been working with that I
mm.
didn't understand and boiled it down in part by explaining what you just asked about. So, taking an action, certainly if it's in opposition to the things you normally do, right away you're going to feel a difference. Right away. Um,
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
for instance, I'm afraid of horses.
yeah.
But when I see people riding horses, I just wish I could do that. Well, the action is you don't have to get on the horse, but go to a stable. Maybe you can even pet a horse or walk
Right.
through quickly and then 3 weeks later, walk through a little more slowly and then do it again 2 weeks later, whatever it is, so that you can get used to the concept so that your brain isn't in panic mode. That right away. So the minute that you're petting the horse and you're no longer afraid, all of a sudden now you've developed a relationship because we're
Right.
very relational as human beings, right? So now we have a little give and take with this horse. You're going to feel better because that fear isn't there anymore. But what is there is a sense of perhaps gratitude or joy or excitement, whatever it is that you need. So that's an overt action that leads to a reaction. But in your brain, because it all goes back to that head of ours, right? If your brain isn't physically moving, if there's no action, you're brain dead. Think
Right.
about this.
Right.
So in order to have a linear reaction or to have an emotional reaction or whatever it is, to create a strategy, to fall in love, whatever that is, things in your brain, your neural connections, they have to be moving. The chemistry has to be flowing. The electricity has to be going. Like all of those things must occur. So there's no reaction without actual physical action. Again,
Makes sense.
science.
Okay. Let's talk about the leading statement. You mentioned in your book a phrase that says leading statement. What makes a leading statement useful and what makes it too vague to work with?
Great question. So, a leading statement is critical to this process because now we're talking about neuro linguistics. It's
Okay.
how your brain is interpreting what information it's taking in.
Mhm.
Right? If you're having a thought, your brain is now listening to that language, all right,
Okay.
interpreting as it understands it. So, a leading statement is very important because it gives you some direction, even if it's the wrong direction at first. At least you've taken action and you're facing or walking down a pathway so that you can make some change. So there's an example that I have in the book that is really wonderful because it seems so small, it's so big, and so many people suffer with this issue. So I
Right.
was working with somebody who had been a nail biter, everything, just his cuticles, it was bad. And
Yeah.
he was successful in business. His life was wonderful, but this was something that really vexed him. And he was embarrassed and always had his hands underneath the table, et cetera, et cetera. And he asked me one day about this because it wasn't the reason why he was in my office. He had bigger reasons. But we talked about this and he said, I just can't stop. And I asked him, what do you do to stop? Like, what have you done? He's like, well, I just try and I think about it. And I'm like, well, what do people generally do to not bite their nails? And he said, well, they can wear gloves. They put that disgusting tasting nail polish on. And he came
Yeah.
up with a whole variety, probably like 4 or 5 things to do. And I said, well, there are some places where they literally put things like cayenne pepper and habanero pepper on your nails. And that should stop it, but it doesn't always. So he totally perplexed. He's like, well, what do I do? Those are all the answers. And I said, keep your hands out of your mouth. And he looked at me like,
Straightforward.
right? And he's like, yeah, but I've thought, and I'm like, hear me out. What does it take to bite your nails? He goes, well, you're just doing it. I'm like, no, you have to stick your hands in your mouth. Like your fingers are part of your hand. You have to stick it in your mouth in order to bite or whatever you're doing. I'm like, so the opposite of that is keep your hands out of your mouth. And here, Ray, is some language that matters. It's not, I will not bite my nails, because the minute you say, I will not bite my nails, your brain is going, I know what it means to bite my nails. I know what it means to not do this. It's already going back to nail biting means this. So I think I'm going to bite my nails. It's keep your hands out of your mouth. Very directive, very forward thinking, right to the point. So the issue isn't biting your nails. The issue is sticking your hands in your mouth. Follow me?
What could probably be the trigger behind that?
Biting
Is
your
it a
nails.
habit? Yeah. Or
Yeah, a lot of time it's a habit. Like half the time people do things like that, or that, there's all types of habits, if you will, and people know they're doing it, but they don't even realize they're doing it. They think
is it
about
the
it
same
after.
as soothing? Like you're trying to soothe yourself?
Yeah, it can be soothing. It can just be some type of, let's flippantly call it a nervous reaction. When
Okay.
people are nervous, they do things. When they're bored, they do things. So people will bite their nails. They'll start scratching themselves. They start pulling their hair. They start eating. They start oversleeping. It's very much, it could be soothing, but it's also just this behavior of your body doing something else because it may not have something else to do in the moment. It could be a few things, really.
Okay. When someone crafts their directive 180, what's the difference between a directive that's powerful and one that's just a positive slogan?
Okay, so we have a lot of positive slogans, right? I mean, we're
Yeah.
now built on that. Our hashtags, if you will, are subtitles, our bylines. Like, we have these like things that people say, and I'm one of these people that walk around and I start saying these things, going, "Why are we saying that? That makes no sense, right?" It's just, it's we think it's helpful, and sometimes it is, but when you're really trying to make a pretty acute change, you're right, they lack substance. Again, it's neurolinguistics. It's how your brain is responding to that. So the other day, somebody addressed me that I'm very close with and said, Ms. Maida. And
Mhm.
I shared with them the fact that this is personal, I can't stand Ms. I remember, because I'm old enough to remember, when there was a real push by feminists to put that into place to equalize some gender issues. And why do we all have to talk about whether or not I'm married? So Ms. was the answer to that. And I think it's a pretty crafty, pretty great answer to that issue. And it worked. And that is why we still use it, Mr., Miss, Mrs., Ms. All right. It gave us an extra space.
Right.
Where does my brain go 100% of the time with that? It goes to angry feminists. That's where my mind goes. So I said to this person, you know what? Just for me, if you like, I could start calling you Mr., But the truth is, I just don't, it just doesn't wear well for me. So these sayings, they don't always do it. But when I talk about what it means, I really feel passionate about the fact that feminism is awesome, but it doesn't have to be mean all of the
Yeah.
time, right? So that's the difference. So if you have some kind of like saying, like you be you, well, who else am I going to be? Great
Yeah,
question, right? And
correct.
it's a great saying, but our sayings become overused, so they also lose their power because it doesn't do for much for us after a while. It becomes just another, to your point, just a saying. So you need something that the reason I called it a directive statement is because it's a direction. You be you is humongous.
Correct.
What is it? What
Big.
is it? Right? What is it about you that you want to be? What does that
Yeah.
mean? So define that. Be the architect. And being an architect means you have to actually explain the structure. It's not like, oh, there's a door, there's a roof. No, there's all kinds of things that go into the design, the architecture of us as people.
Where do you see the 180 method helping most professional life, like leadership, communication, performance, under pressure, or something else?
Right. So it doesn't always have to be under pressure, right? It could be just this is the day or this is the project or whatever. Every professional happens to be a human being.
Mm,
Most living human beings over a life course have a brain in their head. I mean this. So what happens is whether it's personal or professional, it is seamless. As in leadership, if you're not considering certain things that may be outside of your purview, you're not going to be a great leader because it's
mm.
all based on what you think, what you know, how it goes, and you're going to dictate that structure. In this, if you can open up your head and say, I really, you can go to work one day and go, I don't want to be in another meeting with this person, or I don't like that vendor, or whatever it is. Well, it's not about do you like the vendor. The question is what are you there to do? What's your goal as a
Yeah.
professional, right? And then is your behavior and are your strategies and efforts in line with that goal?
I want to go ahead and normalize resistance as part of the process because, again, I'm asking this based on experience. What's the most common place people quit the process? And what would you say to help them stay the course when their brain resists change? Because more often than not, we do resist change.
Absolutely, we do. Because again, back to the beginning, we go to where we are most comfortable. It
Yes.
is what we know best. It just is. If you're, let's say, we're in front of an ocean and the person is afraid of the unknown, you know where they're not going? They're probably not going too far into the ocean. They'll walk in because they can still see their feet. But once they can't see, they can't go. So they're going to resist this next step, which could be spectacular for them, but it doesn't matter because they're afraid. So the resistance is based on our fears. Now, these fears can be very real, they can be very important, they can keep us safe. So, fear, again, emotions are critical. So, fear may be exactly what you need. But if fear is standing in the way of you making a change that would really benefit you, you have to question why you're living in fear. Where does that come from?
Right.
And at a certain point, I also say to people, it doesn't matter where it comes from after a while. It's what's happening with you and what do
Uh,
you want to do with this? Like sometimes like get off, like let's get off the platform of blaming our parents for everything
yeah.
because it's your life now. So great. You have all this history, you have some insight, you know what you like, you know what you don't like. Would you like to go do what you would like to do? Well, then stop talking so much about what is emotionally undoing your process or your progress.
That's an eye opener. Empowering. I
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
have a bad news for you, Allison.
Okay.
I'm actually down to my last question.
Okay. We just start making things up. This is great, Ray. Thank you so much. You're terrific.
But before I'm going to go ahead and ask you my last question, I just want to give you the opportunity to lead us to sources, whether online or maybe physical bookstores where your book is available. We might have interested viewers and listeners right now would want to get a copy of 180?
Okay, so there are a variety of spaces to go to purchase the book. One is through Archway's bookstore. You can buy it directly through the publisher. Another place is Amazon, and you can go to barnesandnobles.com. I've also learned that there are a lot of third-party vendors beyond that that carry the book, so that just requires a Google search. Or you can get onto my website, which is www.allysonmaida.com. You can sign up there. You can message me through there. I have a whole blog section that becomes distributed in different places. It's kind of great. I talk about all kinds of things there. And so you can get the book that way as well.
Now we're going to make those links available for you guys to access. Just check on the description box. You should see all the information right there. What a great book. All right, so I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask this closing question. I thought of this question. I wanted it to be a respectful challenge.
I'm ready.
Alice, if someone says, okay, if I'm going to say I've tried everything, nothing sticks, what would you ask me to do in the next 24 hours that would prove whether 180 is possible for me, or am I a hopeless case?
Okay. First of all, nobody's hopeless. I say this a lot. I say it about myself. You're not done until you're done. Done meaning done. So you're not done. Okay, even the saying an old dog can't learn new tricks is not accurate. It is completely inaccurate, right? So you're not a lost cause, number one. And I would be very quick to say that to you, Ray, you're not a lost cause. Anybody that's listening, you're not a lost cause. However, it's not always easy.
Mhm.
And because we often look for quick fixes, especially
Yes,
now, because we're moving so fast, when it doesn't work fast enough, we give up. All right. Because of the things you've mentioned, emotional resistance, we give up. Because we were raised in a society that says we are driven by our emotions. Well, I never feel good, or it never works, or I'm so unhappy, or I'm so lonely. This is my life. Okay, your brain is taking exactly what you're saying and it's filtering it back in and it's reaffirming exactly what you think you're going to live like. Like it keeps you in that silo. All right. There's
right.
a there's a concept that I use a lot here. And if you were like, look, I just want to start right now and I have 24 hours to make this change, I can't
Mm.
promise you that the entirety of the change will be made, but I can promise you this. There's a term, fake it till you make it. I don't like that because if you're faking something, you're really like faking it. It's really
Yeah,
not real. But if you do something until you actualize it, that's real. And it may sound like the sidebar of faking, it's not. If you want to have more faith, you hang out with people that have more faith than you. If you want
yes,
to play a sport better, you start playing with people who play better than you because you're going to learn things from them and it's going to be frustrating and it's going to be daunting. And you have to ask yourself, how do I live through this challenge? I can't stand this, right? You have to do it. And it goes back to action creates reactions. And the more you do it, the more those neural connections in your head become aligned with that because they're the ones making it happen. And the other neural connections that you had as your default, they weaken. They don't disappear. And your behavior may pop up from time to time. But it's allow the stronger part of you, which is physical in your brain. It's not just spiritual or otherwise like emotional. Allow the stronger parts of yourself to become stronger. It's just simple. It's a simple concept. Harder to do. That's why we have 5 steps, but the concept is quite simple.
all right. So to our viewers and listeners, if you want to make the 180-degree change in your life, if you're tired of being tired, if you're tired of being stuck, go grab yourself a copy of Allison's book, 180, out right now. Uh, just check the description box. Allison, thank you so much for your time. It was short, but it mattered. It made sense. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ray. This was amazing and enjoyable. And I'm so glad to have met you and spent the time with you and everybody else who's viewing. Thank you.
Looking forward to your next book and have another conversation as interesting as this, Allison.
Oh, unbelievable, right? It's exciting. The title will say something about survival, that's for sure, because it's a bit, we're built to survive. I believe that
Yes.
fully. So just biologically speaking. So yeah, it should be cool.
Should we be expecting that within this year?
I don't know. I hope so. But I'm like, sure, I could do that. And then I think the other one took you 16 years. Now I know that I don't need 16 years for this one, but I'm hoping to get it out within a year or so. It's
All
going to
right.
take. So thank you for
Allison,
asking.
again, thank you. The pleasure is mine. It's an honor to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Ray, so much for everything. I look forward to seeing you again.
All right. I also want to give a big shout out to our awesome viewers and listeners for joining us for this interview. Stay tuned for more inspiring conversations on the Author Roundup. I'm Ray Walters. Join me next time as we explore the world of supported self publishing, one indie author at a time.